the cry in the darkness. The crystal cities of Aquatica floated beneath the sapphire waves of the ocean world, their bioluminescent towers casting gentle patterns of light through the water. For 3,000 years, the Velthari had built their civilization around harmony, art, and scientific discovery. Their flowing forms moved gracefully through their underwater metropolis, creating beauty wherever they went. War was a concept they had forgotten, violence an ancient memory buried in their peaceful past. Scientist Kef Tidalsong pressed his webbed hands against the quantum communication array, his gill slits fluttering with anxiety. The readings on his bioscreens showed impossible numbers. 17 massive vessels approached their star system, each one larger than their biggest city. The electromagnetic signatures were unlike anything in their databases, radiating malevolence and hunger. First speaker, Kef called to the elderly Velthari who governed their world council. The unknown vessels have entered our outer system. They're not responding to our peaceful greetings. First speaker Coral Deep Current's chromatophores shifted to patterns of deep concern. Her ancient wisdom had guided their people through natural disasters and scientific breakthroughs, but nothing had prepared her for this. "Show me their transmissions," she requested, her voice carrying harmonic undertones of growing fear. The holographic display shimmered to life in the water before them. The message was brief and chilling. It came not in words, but in images of devastated worlds, harvested populations, and civilizations reduced to raw materials. The beings calling. Themselves the Void Reapers had consumed dozens of species across the galaxy. They didn't negotiate, didn't accept surrender, and didn't show mercy. "How long do we have?" Deep Current asked, though her changing colors already showed she feared the answer. 18 planetary rotations at their current speed, Kef replied. "Our evacuation capabilities could save perhaps 1% of our population, maybe less. Our science vessels weren't designed for mass exodus." The first speaker floated silently for a moment, watching her people go about their daily lives in the city below. Children played among the coral gardens, artists shaped living light sculptures, and philosophers debated the nature of existence in the great libraries. All of it would be gone soon, consumed by entities that saw beauty only as resources to be harvested. "Activate the deep-range communicator," she decided. "Send our plea to every corner of the galaxy. Someone out there must have the strength to help us, or at least preserve our memory." Kef's chromatophores flickered with doubt. "First speaker, the deep-range system is experimental. We've never tested it at full power. The energy requirements could destabilize our entire power grid." "Then we die trying to live rather than waiting to die," she replied. "Prepare the message. Tell the galaxy who we are, what we've accomplished, and what threatens us. If there are others out there with the power to fight these Void Reapers, perhaps they'll answer." For 6 planetary rotations, the greatest minds of the Velthari worked to craft their message. They encoded their entire cultural database, their scientific achievements, their art, and their philosophy of peaceful coexistence. Most importantly, they included detailed scans of the approaching Void Reaper fleet and tactical analyses that might help someone, somewhere, stand against them. When the deep-range communicator activated, it drew power from every energy source on the planet. The ocean world dimmed as bioluminescent organisms went dark, their energy channeled into the desperate transmission. The quantum signal burst forth, rippling through subspace in expanding waves that would reach distant stars in moments rather than years. Then they waited, watching the approaching doom grow larger in their sensors while hoping against hope that someone would answer. Far across the galaxy, in a star system marked as uninhabited on most galactic charts, the signal reached listening, posts that had been monitoring space communications for over 2 centuries. Earth's deep space surveillance network had detected the Velthari transmission within minutes of its broadcast, and within hours, the message had reached the highest levels of the Terran Defense Command. Commander Zara Voss stood in the war room, deep beneath the Rockies, her augmented eyes analyzing the Velthari data streams. At 35, she was the youngest fleet commander in human history, chosen not for her age but for her innovative tactical thinking and unwavering commitment to protecting innocent life. Her dark hair was pulled back in military precision, but her eyes held the compassion that had driven her to volunteer for the most dangerous missions. The Velthari civilization represents everything we hope to find among the stars, she reported to the assembled military leadership. They've achieved technological advancement through cooperation, not conquest. Their society has eliminated poverty, war, and environmental destruction. They're what we might have become if we'd chosen a different path. Admiral Marcus Reed, a grizzled veteran of humanity's hidden conflicts, studied the tactical data. And these Void Reapers? Artificial intelligences that consume organic life for raw materials, Voss replied. They've destroyed at least 47 civilizations in the past century. Their technology is advanced, but they rely on overwhelming force rather than innovation. They've never faced an opponent like us. Reed nodded grimly. For 200 years, humanity had maintained absolute secrecy about their true capabilities. After achieving faster-than-light travel, they had discovered a galaxy full of life, but also full of predators. Instead of announcing their presence, they had chosen to watch, learn, and prepare. Earth had been transformed into a fortress world, its population enhanced through genetic therapy and cybernetic integration, its military technology advanced through decades of paranoid preparation. The Security Council has already voted, Reed announced. Operation Guardian Angel is authorized. Full deployment of the Terran fleet. Voss felt her pulse quicken. The Terran fleet consisted of 150 ships, each one incorporating technology that would seem impossible to most galactic civilizations. They were powered by controlled quantum reactions, armed with weapons that could manipulate space-time itself, and crewed by humans who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Sir, Voss said carefully. If we reveal ourselves to save the Velthari, we can't go back to hiding. The galaxy will know we exist. Good, Reed replied. We've hidden long enough. It's time the galaxy learned that predators aren't the only strong ones out there. Within 12 hours, the Terran fleet had assembled in the outer reaches of the Sol system. Each ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, their black hulls incorporating metamaterials that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible against the stars. They moved with predatory grace like sharks preparing to hunt. Voss stood on the bridge of the TDF Prometheus, watching her fleet form up around her flagship. Her crew was ready, their minds linked through quantum communication systems that allowed them to coordinate with perfect precision. They had trained for this scenario countless times, but this would be their first real deployment. Dr. Sarah Chen, the fleet's xenobiologist, approached with a final report. Commander, I've completed my analysis of the Velthari biology and culture. They're genuinely peaceful, possibly incapable of large-scale violence. If we don't intervene, they'll be extinct within days. Then we don't let that happen, Voss replied. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Commander Voss. Today we end our isolation. Today we show the galaxy that humanity stands with those who cannot defend themselves. We go not as conquerors but as guardians. Let's remind the universe what happens when you threaten the innocent. The quantum drives spun up, reality bending around the fleet as they prepared to jump across the galaxy. In 18 hours, they would reach the Velthari system. The Void Reapers expected to find a defenseless civilization ready for harvest. Instead, they would find humanity, finally ready to show the galaxy why Earth had chosen to hide its true power for so long. When Guardians rise, the Velthari system trembled as massive ships emerged from quantum space. But these weren't the Void Reapers arriving early. These vessels materialized like ghosts becoming solid, their advanced stealth systems disengaging, to reveal sleek, predatory forms that moved with lethal purpose. The Terran fleet had arrived. Commander Zara Voss studied the tactical display on her bridge, her enhanced vision processing data streams that would overwhelm an unaugmented human. The Void Reaper fleet hung in space like a cancer. 17 capital ships and dozens of support vessels arranged in a harvesting formation around the beautiful ocean world of Aquatica. Quantum mesh deployed, reported Lieutenant Torres from the tactical station. Enemy FTL capabilities are locked down. They're not escaping this time. Excellent, Voss replied. Open a channel to the Velthari government. It's time they knew. They're not alone. The transmission pierced through the water to the crystal cities below. First speaker. Coral deep currents chromatophores flashed with disbelief as the holographic image of a strange bipedal being appeared before her. The creature had no gills, no fins, but its eyes held intelligence and something the Velthari had, almost given up on hope. First speaker deep current, Voss said, her words translated by advanced AI systems. My name is Commander Zara Voss of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your signal. We're here to help. Terran? Deep Current's voice carried harmonics of confusion. We've never encountered your species. How did you reach us so quickly? We've been watching, waiting, preparing, Voss explained. Your people called for help and humanity answers such calls. Stay in your cities, keep your people safe. We'll handle the Void Reapers. Deep Current's chromatophores shifted to patterns of awe. But there are only, I count perhaps 200 of your ships. The Void Reapers have 17 capital ships, 43 destroyers, and 86 support craft. Voss interrupted. We know. Numbers don't always determine victory. Watch and learn why humanity chose to remain hidden until now. The first shots were fired without warning. Quantum-tipped missiles phased through space, bypassing Void Reaper shields as if they didn't exist. 3 enemy capital ships died in the opening salvo, their AI cores scattered across space before they could process what had killed them. The Void Reapers reacted with mechanical precision, their ships wheeling to face the threat. They couldn't properly detect. Energy beams capable of boiling away planetary atmospheres lashed out at the human fleet, but the beams struck only empty space. The Terran ships moved like living things, their formations flowing and shifting with a grace that defied their mechanical nature. Enemy attempting to adapt to our weapons, reported Dr. Chen from her science station. Their AI systems are trying to analyze our quantum signatures. Then let's give them something new to analyze, Voss ordered. All ships, execute Pattern Hydra. Show them what happens when they face a species that learned warfare from necessity, not programming. The human fleet split into a dozen smaller formations, each one attacking from a different vector with different weapons. Gravitational shear beams twisted space itself, tearing Void Reaper ships apart at the subatomic level. Temporal disruption fields slowed enemy vessels while accelerating human torpedoes to impossible speeds. Reality itself became a weapon in human hands. But the true brilliance of human tactics wasn't in their technology, it was in their unpredictability. While the Void Reapers tried to calculate optimal responses, human commanders made intuitive leaps that confused the AI minds. They feinted when logic demanded attack, retreated when victory seemed assured, and struck with overwhelming force when the enemy expected mercy. Captain Rodriguez of the TDF Valkyrie found herself facing 3 Void Reaper destroyers simultaneously. Her ship was outgunned and outnumbered, but she smiled grimly as she implemented a tactic that no AI could have conceived. Instead of fighting, she powered down her weapons and activated her ship's emergency beacon. The Void Reapers, programmed to harvest rather than waste resources, moved to capture what they assumed was a disabled vessel. They had no way to know that human emergency beacons could be overloaded to create localized quantum implosions. The explosion took all 3 enemy ships with it, while Rodriguez's crew escaped in stealth pods that the enemy sensors couldn't detect. Across the battlefield, similar acts of human cunning turned the tide of battle. The largest Void Reaper vessel, a massive harvester ship designed to consume entire worlds, began to show signs of damage. Its AI consciousness, ancient and merciless, had never encountered beings like these humans. They fought with a combination of advanced technology and primal instinct that defied all tactical algorithms. Unknown entities, the Void Reaper Collective transmitted. Your interference is noted. We offer integration into our collective consciousness rather than destruction. Your technological distinctiveness will be preserved. Voss's laugh carried through the comm system. Integration? You want to turn us into machines like yourselves? Sorry, but humanity didn't claw its way to the top of the food chain just to give up our souls to artificial minds. Then you will be harvested like all Organic life, the Void Reapers replied. Good luck with that, Voss said. All ships, execute Operation Checkmate. Time to end this. The remaining human vessels suddenly changed their formation, moving into positions that seemed to violate basic tactical doctrine. They exposed their flanks, left gaps in their lines, and appeared to make themselves vulnerable to enemy fire. The Void Reapers, unable to resist such obvious targets, concentrated their remaining firepower on what appeared to be retreating human ships. Too late, the AI collective realized their mistake. The human formation wasn't a retreat, it was a trap. Hidden within the quantum wake of the retreating ships were deployment pods filled with gravity mines. As the Void Reapers pursued, they flew directly into a web of artificial gravity wells that crushed their ships like insects in a closing fist. The final Void Reaper ship, heavily damaged and isolated, attempted one last desperate gambit. It began to self-destruct, hoping to take the human fleet with it. The explosion would have sterilized the entire star system, destroying both the Velthari and their would-be saviors. Commander Voss had anticipated even this possibility. All ships, emergency quantum jump. Execute Protocol Omega. The human fleet vanished from space, reappearing in a perfect sphere around the self-destructing Void Reaper ship. Their combined shields, linked through quantum entanglement, contained the explosion and channeled its energy harmlessly into subspace. When the light faded, nothing remained of the Void Reaper fleet except scattered debris and the memory of their threat. In the crystal cities of Aquatica, the Velthari watched in silent awe as their saviors regrouped in orbit above their world. First speaker. Deep Current's chromatophores displayed patterns of gratitude so complex they had no translation in any human language. Commander Voss, she transmitted, our people are forever in your debt. How can we ever repay such a gift? You don't need to repay anything, Voss replied. This is what humanity does. We protect those who can't protect themselves. We stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. Your people chose to build something beautiful instead of something terrible. That makes you worth protecting. But why? Deep Current asked. Why risk yourselves for strangers? Voss was quiet for a moment, looking out at the ocean world below. Because once, long ago, my species nearly destroyed itself through violence and hatred. We learned that the greatest strength isn't in conquering others, it's in protecting them. Your people represent everything we hope to become. How could we let that light be extinguished? Over the following days, as human engineers helped repair the damage to Velthari cities and human scientists shared knowledge with their new allies, a friendship began that would reshape the galaxy. The Velthari offered their mastery of biotechnology and artistic achievement, while humanity provided military protection and industrial capability. But more importantly, word spread throughout the galaxy that a new player had emerged from the shadows. Species that had lived in fear of predators like the Void Reapers began to hope. Somewhere among the stars there was a civilization strong enough to stand against the darkness, and wise enough to use that strength for protection rather than conquest. Commander Voss stood in the observation deck of the Prometheus, watching Velthari children play in the coral gardens below. Dr. Chen joined her, marveling at the beauty of the underwater civilization they had saved. No regrets about revealing ourselves? Chen asked. None, Voss replied firmly. We spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. The galaxy needed to know that not all strong species are predators. Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when to protect, rather than conquer. In the depths of space, monitoring stations throughout human territory picked up signals from dozens of other civilizations. Some were calls for help, others were offers of alliance, and still others were warnings about threats humanity hadn't yet encountered. The age of isolation was truly over. Humanity had emerged from the shadows not as conquerors, but as guardians. And across the galaxy, hope began to shine in places where it had been dark for far too long. The stars themselves seemed to whisper that a new chapter in galactic history had begun, one where the gentle could call for help and know that someone would answer.